All right, the last two chapters were quite short. We had the problem of the peach falling, and then it got stuck on the top of the Empire State Building. Chapter 37. It was really an amazing sight, and in 2 or 3 minutes, as soon as people below realized that this now couldn't possibly be a bomb, they came pouring out of the shelters and the subways to gape at the marvel. The streets for half a mile around the building were jammed with men and women, and when the word spread that there were actually living things moving about on the top of the great round ball, then everyone went wild with excitement. It's a flying saucer! They're from outer space! They are men from Mars! Or maybe they came from the moon! Just making up. Oh, oh. And a man who had a pair of binoculars to his eyes said, "Huh? They look pretty peculiar to me, I'll tell you that." Police cars and fire engines came screaming in from all over the city and pulled up outside the Empire State Building. 200 firemen and 600 policemen swarmed into the building, went up the elevators as high as they could. Then they poured out onto the observation deck or roof, which is the place where tourists stand just at the bottom of the big spike. So right there. All the policemen were holding their guns at the ready, with their fingers on the trigger, and the firemen were clutching their hatchets. But from where they stood, almost directly under the peach, they couldn't actually see the travelers on the top, because they're under here. How could they see around to see the travelers on the top? "Oh, yeah!" shouted the chief of police. "Come out and show yourself!" Suddenly, the great brown head of the centipede appeared over the side of the peach. His black eyes, as large and round as marbles, glared down at the policemen and the firemen below. Then his monstrous, ugly face broke into a wild grin. The policemen and the firemen all started shouting at once. "Look out!" they called. "It's a dragon!" "It's not a dragon, it's a wampus! It's a gorgon! It's a sea serpent! It's a frog! It's a manticore!" 3 firemen and 5 policemen fainted and had to be carried away. "It's a snozwanger!" cried the police chief. "It's a wangdoodle!" yelled the head of the fire department. The centipede kept on grinning. He seemed to be enjoying enormously the commotion that he was causing. Remember, the centipede likes playing jokes. "Now, see here," shouted the chief of police, cupping his hands to his mouth. "Listen to me. I want you to tell me exactly where you've come from." "We've come from thousands of miles away," cried the centipede, shouting back, grinning more broadly than ever and showing his brown teeth. "There you are! I told you they came from Mars," cried the police chief. Oh, I don't think he did that. I think he was telling his neighbors. So, "There you are! I told you they came from Mars." "I guess you're right," said the head of the fire department. At this point, the green grasshopper poked his huge green head over the side of the peach along the centipedes. 6 more big, strong men fainted when they saw him. That one's an oinik," screamed the head of the fire department. "I just know it's an oinik." "Or a cockatrice," yelled the chief of police. "Stand back, men! It may jump down on us at any moment." "Oh, what on earth are they talking about?" the old green grasshopper said to the centipede. "Search me," the centipede answered. "But they seem to be in an awful stew about something." Then Miss Spider's large, black, murderous-looking head, which to a stranger was probably the most terrifying of all, appeared next to Grasshopper's. "Snakes and ladders," yelled the head fire department. "We're finished now. It's a scorpula!" "It's worse than that," cried the chief of police. "It's a vermicious need? Am I saying that right? I'm not sure. Oh, just look at its... Let's see if I can do it. No dictionary. Vermiceous, gruesome face. Is that the kind that eats fully grown men for breakfast? The head of the fire department asked, going white as a sheet. I'm afraid it is, said the police chief. Oh, please, why doesn't someone help us to get down from here? Miss Spider called out. It's making me giddy. This could be a trick, said the head of the fire department. Don't anyone make a move until I say. They've probably got space guns, muttered the chief of police. But we've got to do something, the head of the fire department announced grimly. About 5 million people are standing down there on the streets watching us. Then why don't you put up a ladder? The chief of police asked him. I'll stand at the bottom and hold it steady for you while you go up and you see what's happening. Thanks very much, snapped the head of the fire department. Soon there were no less than 7 large, fantastic faces peering down over the side of the beach. The centipedes, the old green grasshoppers, Miss Spiders, the earthworms, the ladybugs, the silkworms, and glowworms. And a sort of panic was beginning to break out among the firemen and policemen on the rooftop. Then all at once the panic stopped, and a great gasp of astonishment went up all around them. Now I want you to imagine seeing these insects, seeing an insect that is not very nice to look at, as big as a human, standing up somewhere. You don't know where it came from, and you see this gigantic insect. How would you feel? Would you be a little bit scared too? And now all of a sudden the panic stopped. They're like, oh, what did they see? What did they see? I'll read it again. Then all at once the panic stopped, and a great gasp of astonishment went up all around. For now a small boy was seen to be standing up there beside the other creatures. His hair was blowing in the wind, and he was laughing and waving and calling, Hello, everybody, hello. How would that change the firemen and the policemen's attitude if they saw a little boy up there? What would they do differently? We're going to stop. Oh, no, we're not. I thought that was the end of the chapter. Oh, okay. Here we go. We're keeping going. Here we go. Here's all the firemen passed out, policemen passed out, and they got the guns. For a moment, the men below just stood and stared and gaped. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. Bless my soul, said the head of the fire department going red in his face. It really is a little boy, isn't it? Don't be frightened of us, please, James called out. We're so glad to be here. What about those others beside you? Shouted the chief of police. Are they any of them dangerous? Oh, of course they're not dangerous, James answered. They're the nicest creatures in the world. Allow me to introduce you one by one, and then I'm sure you will believe me. My friends, this is the centipede, and let me make it known. He is so sweet and gentle that, although he's overgrown, the Queen of Spain again and again has summoned him by phone to babysit and sing and knit and be a chaperone. When nurse is off and all the royal children are all alone. Small wonder, said the firemen, they're no longer on the throne. The earthworm, on the other hand, said James, beginning to expand, is great for digging up the land and making old soils newer. Moreover, you should understand he would be absolutely grand for digging subway tunnels and for making you a sewer. And the grasshopper, ladies and gents, is a boon. In millions and millions of ways, you have only to ask him to give you a tune. And he plays and he plays and he plays. As a toy for your children, he's perfectly sweet. There's nothing so good in the shops. You've only to tickle the soles of his feet, and he hops and he hops and he hops. He can't be very fierce, exclaimed the head of all the cops. And now, without excuse, I like to introduce this charming glowworm lover of simplicity. She is easy to install on your ceiling or on your wall, and although this smacks a bit eccentricity, it's really rather clever, for thereafter you will never, never have the slightest need for using electricity. At which no less than 52 policemen cried, "If this is true, that creature will get some fabulous publicity." There's the glowworm. And here we have Miss Spider, with a mile of thread inside her, who has personally requested me to say that she's never met Miss Muffet on her charming little tuffet. If she had, she'd not have frightened her away. Should her looks sometimes alarm you, then I don't think I would harm you. To repeat at least 100 times a day, I must never kill a spider, I must only help and guide her, and invite her to the nursery to play. And the policemen all nodded slightly, and the firemen smiled politely, and about a dozen people cried, "Hooray!" And then there's my darling ladybug, so beautiful, so kind, my greatest comfort since this trip begun. She has 400 children, and she's left them all behind. But they're coming on the next peach if they can, the cops cried. She's entrancing. All the firemen started dancing, and the crowds all started cheering to a man. And now the silkworm, James went on, whose silk will bear comparison with all the greatest silks there are in Rome and Philadelphia, if you would search the whole wide world through. From Paraguay to Timbuktu, I don't think you would find one bit of silk that could compare with it. Even the shops in Singapore don't have the stuff, and what is more, this silkworm had, I'll have you know, the honor not so long ago to spin and weave and sew and press the Queen of England's wedding dress, and she's already made and sent a waistcoat for your president. Oh, good for her, the cops cried out, and all at once a mighty shout went up around the Empire State. Let's get them down at once. Why wait? End of chapter 27. Whew. So now everybody's happy. They are in New York City. James introduced them. Everybody's happy with them. They want to help. And we're going to end there. We have chapter 38. We have 39. And I believe that's it. So we're almost at the end. All right. See you guys.